And a quick disclaimer before we do get started is that this is not a how-to video by any means. I just want to share some of the tech that goes behind making these YouTube videos for you as well as for me. It's always super fun seeing how my videos evolved, how the space has evolved over the years. And when I say years, it really has been years. You might not be able to tell by my subscriber count, but I've been doing this for quite some time. Around 2020, those are the COVID years, you might call them. And if you're keeping the count, it's been about 5 years. And this all started because I love tech, computers, as well as cameras. And when I discovered Tech YouTube, this channel was born. I just had to get myself into it. So I'm not a pro by any means. I'm always and still constantly learning. And I learn from you guys down in the suggestions, down in the comment section below the like button. But let's go ahead and get started with the main device itself, and it's the camera. And as far as camera bodies, I've gone between 2 different camera systems. I started off the channel with Nikon, and then I switched over to Sony when the Sony a7 IV came out. And to be honest, I have no regrets. I have not looked back. I absolutely adore this camera. I use it for my freelance work. I do some video as well as photo. And of course, these YouTube videos that you're watching right now. I love the image quality of the Sony S-Log3 after an edit. I think it looks fantastic. I like the ability to also be able to shoot 4K 60 footage. So it's not super slow-mo, but it's just enough for these videos. So no action shots or anything like that. I know there's rumors of the Sony a7 IV, and that's gonna be a huge temptation. Autofocus on the Sony a7 IV has always been super reliable. Since I am a one-man band, I don't have to constantly be worrying about whether I'm in the frame or not. So that has been super helpful as well as reliable. As far as ports, it has all the ports I could want. It has a USB-C port for charging as well as transfer. It has a full-size HDMI port. Once upon a time, I did have it connected to an external monitor just to make sure I could see myself. But now I just rely on the rear LCD screen. And speaking of which, it's probably one of the poorest things on this camera compared to my Nikon at least. That thing was super sharp. So on my wish list, I would like an external smaller size monitor, not as big as I had, something that's easy to set up. And I did mention that I do use this camera for my freelance photography and of course the thumbnails. So 33 megapixels have been absolutely fantastic for creating images like that. And I'm super excited to see what the Sony a7 IV has to offer out in the future because I'd really like a second camera body. So speaking of which, over here on the side is my iPhone 16 Pro. So with Apple Log, I am able to slightly match the color with the Sony camera. And unless you pixel peep, you probably can't really tell that it's not coming from the full frame camera in front of you. And I'm always an advocate for filming on your iPhone. I think the footage is great, but I do recommend using Apple Log. But just know that those file sizes are really huge. Now with the iPhone 17 Pro, there's Apple Log 2 as well as Apple RAW. So I can only imagine how big those get. I haven't tested them out just yet, but hopefully soon in the future. But if you are going to use Apple Log, know that those file sizes are super large. So to help manage space on my iPhone so I don't just run out of space, I use an SSD dongle. Now, thank goodness that the iPhones have a USB-C, just plug that into the end. Footage goes to an SSD card, which I later just take out, put into my MacBook or the Mac Studio, and just transfer the footage that way, so I don't need to worry about long wait times with the AirDrop. And as for lenses, I do have a variety of different lenses, primarily for my freelance photography for work. So you could see those up overhead. They're primarily primes, but for video, I do prefer to use the 16-35 from Sony. It's the GM version 1, and that's the view you're seeing here. It does primarily live on that 35 meter mark for video, but the 16 is super helpful if I'm trying to get a wide shot, either for video or for a thumbnail. My favorite lens of all time is going to have to be the 24-70 version 2. So I did end up upgrading this one here because it's just my favorite lens of all time. Of course, it does also capture 35 millimeters, but it does so much more than that. It gets close up for B-roll. It does overhead shots from overhead. So a little bit more on the overhead a little later on in the video. But yes, it's pricey, but it's definitely worth every penny. Lots of pennies. I'm probably the only other lens that I'd like to share. It's not a must-have, but I definitely do enjoy it. Doesn't get as much use as I'd like, but it's going to be the 90mm macro lens from Sony. It's super great for taking super close-up shots of different text. So if I'm trying to get really close to a port or any detail on a product, this is definitely the lens that I go to. It is super sharp. I will say that sometimes focusing is a little iffy, but I don't know if that's a lens issue or a me issue. It's super great, and it wasn't super expensive either. And over the course of the last 5 years, the one area I have messed up with and probably struggled with the most is going to be audio. Finding the right mic was super tricky for me. I started off with a shotgun mic on the camera, and because of the distance, it just did not work out. It did not sound good. But this is what I saw a lot of YouTubers doing when they were vlogging, but at the end of the day, I'm not a vlogger, so that style did not work out for me. And then from there, I moved on to an overhead shotgun mic, and That also is just too complicated. I ended up putting up sound blankets to dampen the sound because I am in a basement studio. I had to connect it to an audio mixer, and then I had to sync everything in post, and that was just way too complicated for my workflow. And at the end of the day, I don't think it sounded that good either, so I scrapped that as well. And then ultimately, the solution I did land on is the Rode Wireless Pro 2s, and these have been absolutely fantastic. I do like that you're able to connect a lavalier mic, so that's what I do. It's underneath my shirt. And ever since I swapped to this, I will say the view duration of my videos has certainly gone up, and I no longer get any angry comments down below saying how terrible the audio is. And although they were angry, it does help, engagement, so go ahead and leave a comment, but you guys did not like it. So switching from this, things have definitely been working out. And I'm not trashing the other two products because they were also from Rode, but they just did not work out for my workflow. And again, this is simpler, it syncs, I don't have to do anything post. And I've never been a fan of having a microphone in the shot and the frame, so that's why I do tape it to my chest. I don't like the clip-on experience either. Much cleaner just having it out of sight. And then the final large piece to making content, to making these YouTube videos, of course, is gonna be the lighting. All my lights are from Aperture as well as Amarin, and they are, I believe, brother and sister companies, so all of them do work really well together. I'll leave the specifics of them down below that like button, but they're super convenient because they all work with the Sidus Link app. And of course, the app is going to allow you to turn the lights on or off, adjust dimming, or even change the colors if your lights support that, as well as creating different scenes. I have a total of 3 lights here in the studio. I have no windows because it is a basement studio, so I have one light here to my left bouncing off to the ceiling so that this area isn't too dark. It does have color changing capability, but I do just keep it on white. Another one to my right that lights the side of my face from an angle, and that one does use a softbox with a grid. And those are the only lights that I think I actually need to create these YouTube videos, but I do have more lights. I have a light right out there in front of me. It's primarily for my streaming setup, but it does help also brighten the room because again, we are windowless down here, which is actually a good thing because it helps keep all the lighting constant. So before, when I used to film in a bedroom, the lighting would constantly change as the sun would set. So these videos this talking head portion can take an hour plus sometimes. So even though you're seeing only a 10-minute portion, it takes a long time. So the lighting was never constant back when I used to film in a bedroom. And then for the final piece of lighting, I do have Amaran tube lights that I just kind of sporadically place around the studio. One's a 2-foot, the other is 4-foot, and they are color changing. So depending on what I'm doing, I'll adjust the color. And it just gives the space a little extra vibrancy because if you haven't noticed, I do like light as well as bright. And even in post, I even increase the saturation. Coming down to a couple of the smaller items that are still essential for creating YouTube videos. 5 years ago, when the channel did start off, I picked up a set of color matching tripods, and they have these little hints of orange, and it's from a brand called Gato. So orange is my favorite color if you are new to the channel, and that is why I picked them up, but I have no regrets because they've been holding on just fine. I keep them at different heights, so depending on what I'm trying to capture as far as B-roll, I don't have to fuss with adjusting the heights, and since they are the same, they use the same mounting plate, so it saves lots of time, I'll say that. They have tilting as well as panning, so that's also really helpful for collecting different shots. And then as far as overhead shots, I do use a C-stand to get these overhead shots, whether I'm doing an unboxing or just capturing B-roll. And speaking of B-roll, I do have photo backdrop paper over here to my left that I picked up from Amazon a couple years ago. And basically what I do is I roll this actual desk up against it, and depending on what the product is and what the mood I'm trying to capture, I select the paper for the shot, and then I just use it to capture B-roll images. And another not so flashy piece of tech that's still essential for creating content, it's going to be those SD cards as well as SSD drives. I personally use ProGrade's 128's V90 cards. I have about 5 to 6 of them because this 4K footage takes up a lot of space, and I don't always delete the footage right after, so I kind of set them off to the side until I do have time to sort them out. And I do create backups because sometimes I reuse footage for other videos down the road, and they've never failed me, so I do recommend them. But I will say, definitely get the V90 cards because you'll need them if you do want to capture that 4K footage. And as far as SSD drives, I do recommend Samsung. I have a few of them at this point. I have 2 4TB versions. They do go on sale around the holiday time, so keep an eye out for them. This one here in particular is the tough model. I don't do anything tough, but they're the ones that go on sale quite often, so I have a couple of these at this point. I have one that lives primarily attached to the Mac Studio, and then some that just come with me on the go. And then it all comes down to putting that YouTube video together. And I use a combo of the M1 Ultra Mac Studio that you see behind me, as well as the M1 Max MacBook Pro. And yes, I'm saying M1. I know we're on the M5, and who knows, M6 is probably around the corner, but these computers to this day have not skipped a beat. I primarily edit on Final Cut Pro, and I can't imagine needing another computer anytime soon. The performance on these two computers have been absolutely incredible, and Final Cut Pro only being $299, one-time purchase is just absolutely worth it. It's even cheaper if you're a student, and I just really hope they never go the subscription model. I'll leave links to the plugin software as well as royalty music that I use for these videos down below. And I'd be interested in hearing your comments on how I can make these videos even more enjoyable down in the comment section. And of course, while you're down there, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, I'll see ya.